Um, Welcome back to my channel. I'm Amber. Um, this video I knew was going to eventually pop up on my channel. I was eventually going to talk about it. When I started my channel, I kind of started it because of this. I was at a point in my life where I didn't know who I was anymore because of this, and wanted to kind of get to know myself again and re-explore and experiment and do things that I loved and had loved before and see if I still loved, and also to practice talking and expressing myself again because I had lost just the ability to speak and say sentences without stuttering and rethinking it and rephrasing it and changing it and talking too fast or talking too slow. And so this was me practicing. And when I think back to the first couple of videos of me recording a clip 20 different times, I I just kind of laugh cuz like back then it was such a struggle because I I couldn't talk. And now I do that because I mess up a word or two, and it's so frustrating still, but I'm also so proud of myself for have come that far. Speaking of messing up a word or two, I'm not perfect. I I can't talk sometimes. I talk a lot. Um that's always been me. And I think as I progressed more and more through this and grew, I knew that as a result of this, my way of speaking would probably always be somewhat affected by it. Um, and so my horrible grammar and my horrible talking um, would probably be this way for the rest of my life. And I was like, okay, you know, I mean, maybe we can keep going and figuring things out. But I'm like, at least I can talk. At least I can express how I'm feeling now. At least I can try. Um, but it's so funny because during the main point of this that was going on, I could not talk at all, and I was majoring in English, and I was like, how on earth did I get those degrees? And now I'm like, well, I've always been terrible at just talking, and so I am the English major that can't speak English. I am probably the worst person at grammar and talking who has majored in English probably ever. If I'm being really honest, I think I got into English because I always loved telling stories and I loved hearing other people's, and I loved being inspired by others and hearing them speak their truth, and I wanted to be able to somehow speak mindfully without being afraid. And I think I've come a long way with that, but there's still parts of me, and this is something that has made it even worse, that it's really hard to do that. And I don't major in English anymore, but kind of find it really funny that I'm not like my other English major friends who talk about theories and can just drop it in a conversation, and I'm just like for everything. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Um, Unless like the joke goes too far, then I'm just like, I mean, I try, and as a result of what I have gone through, I I think I've persevered a lot. With how I started and not being able to talk. Um, and starting this YouTube channel at a place where I didn't even know who I was, and now I'm pretty sure of who I am. And even though I still got a lot of growing to go, I mean, everyone grows no matter how old they get. Um, I'm happy. And at the beginning, I was very lost. So here it goes, the big reveal. Uh, I have PTSD. You probably already guessed from the title. It's much easier writing in a title than it is talking about it. Um, I was diagnosed last summer, and even before last summer, I think I probably had it for the majority of the relationship that caused it. I was in a mentally abusive relationship, and I put emphasis on the mentally because I know that an abusive relationship is something way more horrific, and I'm not even going to compare myself to that. And a lot of me trying to talk about this and figure out what I was going to say because I wanted to share this because I didn't think it was okay was me kind of being like, who's going to care about this when that's going on? And I know there's people talking about this, but who's going to listen to me? Some people that I called friends didn't even listen to me or believe me. I'm me, I'm weird and awkward and people don't get me. Like, it took a lot. It took a lot to get where I am, to get through it, even though I'm still going through it. To get over at least that mountain, that hurdle. Um, and to deal with the side effects and the aftermath of it. And the aftermath and the side effects of the aftermath and the side effects and getting through that. I I'm a person who, like I said before, tells stories. And if you watch my YouTube, you know I tell stories. And I like to bring awareness to things that I feel important, but I didn't think that this would ever happen to me. Um, and up until that point, I hadn't brought or really talked about things that were important like that in a very long time. So I think it was just kind of like, well, here it is. You choose what you're going to do with it. It's your story. And I was like, are people going to even believe me? And a lot of people close to me didn't. And I had to get rid of a lot of them and say goodbye to a lot of people that I thought were going to be in my life for a very long time. And the crazy part of this is, like, we all knew each other, and it's really hard when you're all friends and in one group and everything. And I just, it was frustrating. But basically, I was in this relationship even when I wasn't in the relationship. We were talking about being in a relationship, so I count that year and a half or whatever. It was like 4 years. And I think I started realizing that my brain was being affected, but I didn't do anything about it. Somewhere along right before it started, like before the relationship even started, um, There was yelling before it started. There was manipulation. I didn't realize it back then. There was name calling. And the really sad and ugly part of this was that I engaged in a lot of this too because I wanted to defend myself, and I just kind of gave in to the toxicity, and I'm not proud of it. And I didn't want to share that ugly truth with people because then fingers were starting to be pointed at me, and I didn't want that, or for a finger to be pointed at me, um, because I was not the one who initiated this tension. And I'm not proud of myself for these mistakes and for things I said or did. But it's hard to also say that without feeling like you're putting blame on the other person, but then at the same time, the blame does go on the environment that the other person created. And then you feel weak, you feel responsible, you feel all these different things, and it's like, I didn't know. The first time we fought, I was lied to. I felt this ache in my stomach, this hurt, this betrayal. The first time, and we weren't even together. And I should have listened to that, but I didn't. Because I knew how wrong it was to be lied to. And I didn't want that to be okay. I didn't want it to be our first fight. Like, I didn't. And it wasn't just a little lie. It was just like why? Like, it was dumb. Like, why would you? And then it just became lies and more lies and more lies. And I couldn't even say anything without it turning into a fight. I couldn't even share my emotions. And then when I was crying, they would just stop and look at me. And for the purpose of privacy, and I do this with all my other videos, but of course I'm being more vulnerable here. I'm not disclosing names or anything. Only those who are really close to me know all of it, you know. I share to, you know, to talk to you guys and everything, but it is also my life. But I would cry and they would just look at me and be like, well, I can't talk if you're crying. And at first I was like, I'm sorry. Like, but I'm human. Do you expect me not to cry? And then it became, when you cry, it ends the conversation. And that makes me upset because then I can't share my opinion, or I can't share what I was going to say. I'm the manipulative one because I'm crying. A human emotion that I do a lot of, I know. But it's like, it's not, it wasn't even told to me like in a way where it's like, hey, like, it was through anger, it was through frustration. Like, I need to talk and I can't talk because you are crying. And then I was just crying even more because of that. The first time I was called something, and I don't remember what it was because I think I blocked it out. And the thing is that after the relationship ended, a lot of things that I had forgotten and blocked out were like kind of like thrown back into my memory, and I can't for the life of me remember this. And I think I just really blocked it out because I knew it hurt a lot. And I was like, just so upset that they had called me that. At that point, Like we weren't even together, or maybe at that point we were together for like a couple of months. But like I love yous had been already thrown about before we had even gotten together, and like I I fall in love too quickly. I know that, but I was really certain that this was going to be my person. We really had spent a lot of quality time together, and I really did feel like this was my person, you know? And so for that person that I loved to diminish me in that way, it just was like, that's not love. Lying, manipulating, that's not love. And I wasn't even told the word I was manipulating until towards like the end of the relationship. And it's just there was a lot of things that felt like games, that one thing would be said and then another thing wouldn't be said and I would have to figure it out, or things were figured out by surprise. And it's like I hated it. It was a whole game of like this is happening but there's no clear definition of it, but it's happening and other people are like, are you okay? And other people are just like, well, she's out of it. And it's just like, I don't know what I am. Is the problem me? And I ended up believing the problem was me and my anxiety and my I have to go to therapy because so many stuff is wrong, and stuff at home and this and that were being blamed. Everybody and everything were being blamed, but the actual thing of what it was, because there was no name that was thrown out about it. And those closest to me, other than my family, couldn't even figure it out. Friends that I had that only saw me for a second, though, the real friends that like I now know are real friends, you know, they knew something was up, but they didn't know exactly what. But they knew that more than the people around me that were there every single day. And it was hard for my friends to be able to express that they were worried or like that something was going on, because they weren't there all the time and they didn't really even know what was going on. And it's like they wanted me to be happy. And there's a lot of things that were like, I regret not saying this, I regret not saying that. But I think that I was able to forgive and I was able to realize and recognize a lot of that because of just the complexity of all that was going on, and realize who was really there for me, and know that those who I thought were there for me and right there didn't even do anything. Like, I'm not gonna be the one putting blame on people that made a few mistakes when those who really should have been there weren't. Um, it wasn't until after the breakup that I found out that it was being discussed amongst friends, because there was a group of friends with this individual, that how horrible a person and how horrible a girlfriend I was, and they should just dump me. Then they should have just dumped me, because it would have been so much easier and better than all the manipulation and the games, because it's messed up. It's messed up. And it's messed up that you were sitting down eating and playing card games with friends, and I was the topic of discussion of how horrible a person I was and how horrible my family was. And then to know that this individual was not only doing this, but lying to me about things that they were doing just so we wouldn't get into a fight. It just, all the manipulation, all the lies, all the. I'm not in high school. I didn't ask to be in high school. I graduated early from high school. I didn't need that. Especially it going behind my back and people saying stuff and whispering at a college, with adults. Like, I'm just saying, like, it's just so frustrating. And to find out all these things after the fact, in the beginning, I was very, very, I don't want to say strong, but I was very, this is not okay. I don't like this. These are my boundaries, this. And as time went on, I'm like, well, it's okay. It's all right. You crossed this boundary. It's okay. We can fix it. No, it's not okay. None of that is okay. Anyway, the relationship ended. And I felt the worst anxiety of my life. And I had felt anxiety throughout this relationship. Like, I felt like my whole being had been taken out of me and thrown into a million pieces across the continent. Like, and there was no way of me reaching that ever again. Like, everything that I was gone in a blink of an eye. This person was who I was. And for that to happen was just, it was beyond me that I didn't even know me, because I was whoever this person was. And whoever they were and what they said and what they did is what I became and what I was and my interest. And in that relationship, you feel like you're two different people and everything. But it's like this feeding of the toxicity. It was a lot. It was too much. And I had this like identity crisis at the age of 23 and a half, being like, who am I? I became very depressed. I had thoughts where I felt like, why am I even here? Because, like, I'm nobody now. Like, I'm nobody without this person. I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I was having nightmares, and I would wake up in cold sweats. I would have moments when my vision would kind of go blank and I was in a different place in a different time and I wasn't there. I would have moments when a particular smell like just triggered all these different emotions down my body and I could feel them, like I was there back then in that time. And there was moments when I even wanted to laugh because I was happy, because in my mind I was back in that time with that person, and then I blinked and I was like, what just happened? Like, I don't even know how to fully explain it. And when I first heard about PTSD, it was a thing that happened to soldiers after the war, and because of the trauma they experienced. And now it's become much more of a bigger thing that people get when they experience different forms of trauma. But I only knew so much about that, and I didn't think that my experience was enough for me to develop it. But I would talk to my friends and I'm like, this feels like how PTSD is described to me. It was a lot, and I had to do my own research because it's like nobody thought this is what I had. It wasn't a thing. Nobody believed. Like, it just, I was like, no, I know this is what I have, or some version of it. And it's like, no doctor was really catching on. I couldn't define it. And like, it's just like I didn't have something to present to those people and be like, this is what it is. This is like, cause like I just had my own experiences. It's not like I can type in Google and just be like, well, if you think about this person and you black out and blah blah blah, like what does that mean? Like I guess things would come out. But it's not like I could just put my own memories and get an answer right away. Um, there were things where I researched, like what happens if you black out from and think about a traumatic past or something. Like I had to be a little bit more specific than like what I was saying earlier. And it's not that anybody didn't like believe me. It was more sort of like, we don't know what you have because like we don't know what it like there is no word, there is no term, and I can't blame people for that. But then like again, there's also people who are just like, oh, you're just, going crazy after the breakup. You're like, just being mopey and whatever. Like it's been a couple of months. You should let it go now. And I'm just like, I'm not crazy. Like I swear I'm not crazy. Um, and then I met this lovely therapist who diagnosed me. And a therapist is not supposed to validate everything that you're feeling and be like, oh, it's all sunshine and rainbows and okay. They're supposed to help you through your feelings and everything, and yeah, agree with you in certain things and validate you to an extent. But when this person said what you are experiencing are symptoms of PTSD, it's like I wanted to. It was this exhilarating feeling of just like, I'm not crazy. This is real. Like, you have no idea what I've been going through. Like, this little thing that this breakup that people think that, like, I'm just holding on to. And yeah, I have a hard time going through breakups. I know that. But it's like, my first one, it was not anything like this. Like, I, it hurt, but it didn't hurt my body, hurt my mind, hurt every fiber of in here with this intense pain and longing and this love for someone who you didn't love anymore. It felt sickening. It felt like something was wrong with me, to feel like I had lost myself that much. Even after the first like time I broke up with someone, like I I still knew who I was. I felt the break up, like I felt like we were now no longer together, but I knew who I was. And it's like, yeah, you have that moment of like, oh, I don't know who I am anymore without them. But it's like, I knew, I felt completely ripped open. Like all my insides were gone. I I could tell you guys every detail of what happened, but honestly, that would be a headache. Mainly for you, because that would be like 2 hours long, and I don't have that time or that energy right now because it is now 12 a.m. And this video is already hard enough, and I've had to film certain parts over again. I just don't feel like the whole story is necessary. I feel like the gist of it should be said, and also the whole point is to just tell you guys to bring awareness. I think if I had filmed it earlier on, it would have been much more of, there would have been more emotion. But at this point in my life, I've gotten through it, and there's still gonna always be a part of it within me that I'm gonna have to deal with it for the rest of my life because it is like something that I was diagnosed with. And like, also, if I had filmed it back then, I think there would have been a lot of tears and a lot of, like, I would feel drained and it would trigger me and it just wouldn't have been good. So I just felt like the time to film this video was coming to an end somehow with like the universe, because I had come so far, and I this YouTube channel now became something more than just what it was originally supposed to be, and also what I had wanted it to be this platform for me to do things that I love and also talk about things, and it's becoming that even with the few subscribers that I have. I'm so happy that I'm feeling this excitement with it, but I still wanted to film this video. And I knew that if I didn't do it now, I probably wasn't gonna ever do it. Like, I can, in all my other platforms, if I'm feeling in the mood, I can post a video about how I'm feeling with my anxiety or a PTSD quote or whatever the case may be, or I can sit down and write a poem about my PTSD, or maybe even a short story or a book. I feel like this video's time was coming an ending. Um, and I had so much more to share on here, and so I just if I didn't do it now, I wouldn't do it, you know. And like, I wanted to share the whole story. The time for doing that also ended, and I'm okay with that because that time was also kind of like in between the time of like it would have triggered me, like, you know, and like I can now, but it's like, you know, and like, who has the time for all that? You guys get it. It's mainly just to bring attention to this, that it's not okay, that you're not alone, that there is help, that you're not crazy, that your feelings are valid, that we make mistakes and we fall into things sometimes that we shouldn't. Just know that you don't need to continue blaming yourself. Yeah, you made mistakes, but you're allowed to forgive yourself. You're allowed to move forward. You don't deserve to be judged by actions that you made in a toxic environment. And even if you made some really bad ones, you should be able to move on and be allowed to, and be allowed to just stop holding yourself accountable and for others to hold you accountable. And if they don't, you how you feel about yourself, that matters. You know that you made a mistake and it wasn't you, and you know the environment that you were in. Forgive yourself. I hope this video did something for you, and I hope it meant something to those who need it. I'm gonna go now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see y'all real soon.